Hey YouTube, how are you? Good afternoon. I'm back. This is Ashley Nicole with The Practical Life, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and my channel is all about mental health and careers. I give my perspective on different things, not just trending topics, but just different things related to mental health, trying to share my knowledge, expertise, and education regarding mental health so that we can be a little bit more informed as a community when it relates to mental health. And today, we're going to be getting into a lot of things. This stream might have to be, uh, I might have to break this stream up because it's a lot to talk about and we're going to get into it. But before I get started, please know that everything in this video is my opinion based on, again, my knowledge, experience, and expertise in the field of mental health. And any images or information that I use is fair use. And, I really would like you all to engage in the conversation. If you have an opinion about something or make a comment, and if you watch the replay, please leave me a comment. I do give consultations related to mental health and work. If you need any information or just need additional resources related to your situation or someone that you know, look at all the information in the description box. It will be below. So again, today we're going to get into it. As you all can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about Lauren London. She recently did an interview with Angie Martinez, and this is, I believe, is the first in-person interview that she has done since the situation happened with Nipsey. We all know what happened with him. Rest in peace. Such a tragic loss. And I really want to make sure, as a professional, and, it's a balance between that and just kind of, giving my opinion. I think in this particular video, I really want to be, respectful of her situation and things like that. And this is really a sensitive topic. And I feel like in some ways it's taboo a little bit. Because when we lose someone, we know that is going to occur. But until it kind of hits us, like gets in front of us, we don't really talk about it that much, especially, in certain situations like family or, things like that. So let's get into it. What I'm going to do is a little bit later, I'll talk about, kind of give my reaction related to the interview. But I wanted to really first go over the stages of grief. Now, grief, of course, is a reaction, to when we lose someone, but it can really be a reaction to, you know, not related to losing someone, but something, right? Or some type of situation that didn't end up in the way that you hoped it would, or just disappointment. So, grief can be looked at in that way as well. I took some notes related to her interview because I really wanted to make sure that I touched on some points. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. But anytime there's something in our lives that didn't turn out the way we wanted it to turn out, or is something, that was, or something that we expected and it doesn't turn out that way, that can be looked at as for grief as well. If you just joined the live, please hit the like button. Today, we are talking about Lauren London and her interview with Angie Martinez. And first, I'm going to go over the stages of grief. Now, the stages of grief when it comes to mental health is a framework. It's not a, linear path, right? There are 5 stages, but a person normally wouldn't go through these stages one by one. It could be all over the place, right? Depending on the situation and, depending on what the person is going through at that time. So, first, I'll get into the stages. The first stage is denial, right? You are in shock. No matter, the manner of the loss, you are in shock about, losing this person, right? And I'm also going to, as I go through these stages, talk about what that stage may look like and what that stage may feel like. Now, I'm just going to touch on a little bit of what it looks like and feels like, because remember, it's not a one size fits all. It could be different for each person depending on the situation and what stage they're in and things of that nature. So please keep that in mind. But the first stage is denial, right? So what does that look like? It may look like forgetting, right? Forgetting certain things. You have a block, a time block. You don't remember certain situations that you had with that person or certain things that you used to do. You've kind of blocked it out of your mind, right? And it may feel like being numb. You're just numb to the situation. Like you don't really know how to feel. It's kind of like you're there, but you're not there, if that makes any sense. The next stage is anger. So, anger, of course, we know what anger looks like, right? It could look like being irritable, also having a negative outlook on the future, kind of being pessimistic, being a little bit cynical about things, and it could feel like you're out of control. It's kind of like you don't know if you coming or going. You just again kind of like existing, but you're not really living in that stage. The next stage is the bargaining. So, and a lot of the examples that I'm giving of what it looks like and feels like is related to my opinion and view of, her interview as well. And we'll get into that. So, bargaining, what it looks like, it may look like trying to like perfectionism, right? Making sure that everything is on point, making sure that you're not out of place with things. Because usually, if you are having some type of trying to be perfect, right, you need to be in control, right? And when you feel like you want to be in control, that has to do a little bit with anxiety, right? Because I'm trying in certain ways to control the situation. The more I prepare, the more I'm in control, the less likely something is going to go awry. And then it could feel like, again, fear, anxiety. But if you are continuing or to try to prepare for something, then you are in control of that situation or trying to be, because you can't control everything, but in your mind, the more you prepare, the less likely something is going to happen. The next stage is depression. So what does that look like? Depression can look like a whole lot of things, guys, okay? But I'm just going to give a couple of examples. It could look like not wanting to socialize, not wanting to get out of the house, not wanting to bathe yourself, doing like everyday activities that you would normally do. You don't really want to do those things anymore, or you are, the frequency in which you used to do them has gone down. And what does it feel like? Feeling like, you're in despair, you feel overwhelmed. And sometimes depression and anxiety can be interchangeable. Sometimes you may feel like you're depressed, but it could be a little bit, of anxiety coupled with that, or it could only be anxiety. The next stage is acceptance. So, what does accepting a loss look like? Right? Being present, making sure that you're in the moment, enjoying the moment that you're in. It could look like vulnerability, not being fearful, or afraid to express how you're feeling about your loss to someone, right? You're okay with feeling all the feels, right? And crying, if the tears come, the tears just come. Or if you feel angry at that time, that you feel okay to show that. And it could also look like adapting to the situation. When you lose someone, especially that close to you, right? You have to learn how to live a life without them. So, your daily routine might look different. You have to adapt to, a situation if you have children, right? And things like that. And so, what does it feel like? Acceptance feels like, being courageous, like Lauren. She is very courageous for doing an interview. It takes a lot of courage, especially based on some of the things she said at the beginning of the interview. A lot of people were saddened by what happened to her loved one, right? Everybody was like, Nipsey, even people probably who weren't familiar with his music, just the particular situation and learning more about the type of person that he was, right? The type of person that he was becoming and wanted to be, and how he really influenced a lot of people in a positive way. um Even though he came from a particular, this particular background and things like that, from where he was from, it really inspired a lot of people and motivated them. And I think still to this day, different interviews that you look at or listen to that he was a part of, just certain things that he says will inspire you. So she is very courageous for even coming out to do an interview, and sharing, right? We thank her for sharing her experience and allowing other people who have lost someone, to learn from her situation. And it'll look like also self compassion, right? Some people who lose someone very close to them, right? They, stop caring about themselves. If that makes any sense. So just like showing yourself some compassion and saying, hey, I feel sad today and that's okay. So I'm going to love on myself a little bit, I know that I need to take some time to take care of myself, because I'm still going through it with this situation. So those are the 5 stages of grief. And again, it's just a framework. It's not a linear frame, right? At one point, you could be in the stage where you're angry, and then 3 months later, you could be back to denial. So it all depends again on the situation. But um this particular interview, I'm going to get to my notes about, and I'm going to go from the beginning, and I may skip around a little bit, but the first thing I wanted to talk about was, or say, is that I'm concerned about our sis. To me, and other therapists, they may disagree, right? They may see something that I didn't see or what have you. These are just, again, my opinions. But at the beginning of the interview, when you just her look, her what we would call affect, right? To me, it seemed like it didn't match the situation. It seems like the way she was kind of expressing herself and what she was saying is kind of how she really wants to be, but she's really not there yet. To me, she looked sad. She looked a little bit depressed. She looked sad a little bit, and understandable, right? I think it's been what, three I don't. It may. She continued to say 3 years and 5 years and things like that, but it's been some time since the situation with Nipsey, and it looks like she may be going through a little bit of complicated grief, where there's no timeline for grieving, right? 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, you could be fine. And then the next 5 years, it's like, oh my God, like what happened? Like, you are totally back in those stages. But to me, it seemed like she looked sad. It looked like she had been, crying before the interview, and she may have or may have not, but it just kind of looked that way to me. um, but aside from that, it looked like she was ready though to speak, right? She was ready to kind of talk about, what happened and how she's been getting through it and things like that. So kudos to Lauren for again having the courage to be able to do that. I would imagine that it was very difficult for her after all this time to even sit down and have an interview with anyone regarding the situation. Let's see. I also have here in the beginning. Oh, she talked about too. She was saying that people, um, because it seems like everybody kind of rallied around her, which she was saying like she was okay with and she understood. But some people, and they probably don't know that they're even coming off this way, what they say to her is, for example, oh, I can't imagine you going through that, or I can't imagine this happening to someone, or I can't imagine you going through this. It's almost like pity for her. And so she said that when it sounds like it's pity, then she starts to feel pitiful, right? And that's under all of us probably, can understand that when someone says, "Oh, I can't imagine," it's like they almost feel sorry for you a little bit, but you don't want them to feel sorry for you. It's kind of like you want to be strong, even though you're breaking down. It's like that particular comment, not even the comment, but the way the comment is said is not helping, right? So it sounds like she just wants people to be genuine in being concerned about her, which rightfully so, right? She also kept saying that we don't we don't really accept the loss until it's in our face, which was kind of deep, right? Because we all know that the day is coming. Like we're here, but we're going to be leaving at some point. And I think she was on point with saying that, like, we're all going to not be here anymore. And I'm circling around the words because again, I don't know what you say on YouTube, but I think that what she has not probably taken into account is that in her situation, of course, we know we're not going to be here anymore, but the manner in which she lost Nipsey is what she would be grappling with. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we know we're going to go, but like this, like that's something that you may not be able to accept. You see what I'm saying? So, and that may be where where you're in the anger stage, right? And so also she says that she talked a little bit about having grief brain. So every people may or may not know, like, and I didn't believe it either, pregnancy brain. Like, I didn't think that was a thing or whatever. But when I got pregnant, and when I was pregnant, it wasn't really prevalent. But after I had that baby, even up until now, I can't remember nothing. Like, it be little things. You're like, wait a minute, I know, where did I put that? Or just certain things you really cannot remember. Like, so she was saying that it's the same with grief. But to me, when she says, oh, someone says, oh, remember in 2016 when we did this or said that or went here, and she's like, no, I don't remember that. It's almost like she has blocked out that time or blocked out her previous life, if that makes any sense, so that she doesn't have to feel all the feels. It's almost like a coping mechanism, right? I don't want to remember because then I'm going to get sad, you know. And even though, like she said, she has Nipsey is all over her house, she has pictures of him. Nipsey is right in front of her when she looks at her son, you know what I'm saying? So she's reminded of him all the time, but she has blocked out anytime there's some type of trauma that someone has experienced. They may block out certain parts of their lives related to that trauma where they don't remember what happened, when it happened, who was around, things like that. And I think that is what's happening with her when she says that, you know, like, oh, I don't remember when we went there in 2016, because she has blocked the trauma out of her mind. um she says, oh, she also said that, and this is true, I've heard this from a lot of clients, right? That, you know, initially everybody is around you, right? Everybody is concerned. Everybody wants to take care of you. Everybody wants to make sure you're okay. You know, people are calling, people are stopping by, things like that. But after a while, it fades to black. You know, people go back to living their lives, right? And she said, you know, people go back to talking crap about you, right? Because it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that happened. Now we back to whatever it was. And that's true. You know, people, they go back, it's not that I don't know if people, I don't think people intentionally forget about the person, but it's like almost like what she said, we're all going to go someday, and we have to continue our lives and cope, right, with what's happened. But you forget to check in on your friend, your, you know, your sister, your family members, to just kind of check in to see like if they're okay. It's almost like, as a community, we think that time heals, which is true, time does heal, but you still need to, you know, it doesn't mean that you don't, some days you don't have a hard day, or some months are not hard months. You have to continue to check on each other and, you know, check in with each other to say, hey, this happened 2 years ago, but how are you doing now? Like, you know, so that was interesting that she said that. I will say that Lauren has a lot of insight into how she's feeling, how she the process and how she got to where she is today, regarding her emotions and things like that, and what she understanding what she needs to be able to fully heal and move forward. um I also had here, like I said before, she was comfortable and ready, but she was still in that moment. Like if Angie said that trigger word or something small, that keyword, like she was gonna break down. That's what it felt like to me, that she was on the verge of just, if Angie said one thing or asked her that one thing, I don't know what it is, you know what I mean? But if she heard it, like she was just gonna break down. And I think if she did, she would have been okay with that. You know, she would have been, you know, fine being vulnerable. Um, but it just, her affect showed that, you know, I'm ready, but I'm still kind of, it's still fresh for me. Like to me, that interview was, it seemed like it happened to her last week. Honestly, that's what it looked like to me. Um, she talked about, she said that this is her second trauma, and I don't think there's not I don't think there's a lot of information, like you know, even though she's a celebrity, you know, the internet has information about these celebrities, and you know, it could be false information, but you usually find things about, you know, their life and you know, things that happen to them, things like that. And I don't think there's a lot of information out there about Lauren. Now she said this is her second trauma, and she started talking about, she told Angie that she went to a retreat, like a loss retreat, when she was like 25 years old. And so Angie was like, Kudos to Angie. Because this had to be difficult for Angie to ask her these questions, knowing that it's her first interview since, the loss of Nipsey, and, her being the one kind of having to ask the questions, but kind of, be careful with how she asks, and but still trying to have an interview, you know what I mean? So kudos to her too. But Angie was like, wait a minute, you went to a what? When? Like, why? Um, and she started to talk about that she's connected spiritually, and she's wants to search for truth, and she's a lover of truth, and she went to this seminar, and I'm thinking the seminar is maybe 2 hours or half a day. She said she went for 2 days. You went to a seminar for 2 days to learn more about loss. So I would speculate that maybe around that time is when the first trauma happened, or probably in childhood, and then that's when she, wanted to start to heal and went to this seminar. And then she also said that she has a friend that is an intuitive and things like that. And so she learned a lot at this seminar. And so Angie, like anybody probably would think, Angie's like, okay, that is some way like the universe prepared you, right? For what will happen to you in the future, to know how to deal with it, and accept it and things like that. And she was like, for what would happen to your loved one. And she's like, what's going to happen to all of us? It seems like she's like what she was saying and how she was saying it. It seems like she's in all of those stages, like a little bit of all of those stages she's in right now. So it was interesting to learn that this is her second trauma. Um, and she says she feels like, God dropped the ball on her, right? This is the second trauma that I've been through. Her experiencing pure love with Nipsey, and now he's not here anymore. Like, why why are you putting me through this? You know what I mean? And so, she said, in questioning God and things like that, that's how she has come to have a closer relationship with him. And that's, like purely what she wants to continue to do, is just to have, a closer relationship with God, and things like that. So that was interesting to know. I would be interested in finding out what the first, trauma was, and that would give a little bit of insight in what kind of led her to this point. She also was saying that Nipsey was her hype man, saying, like, Lauren, you good at what you do, like you can do a lot, like, but it seems like she has some self-doubt, and that could be due to the first trauma. It could be due to the first trauma. I don't know. Just my opinion, But she was saying he was her hype man. So it's like, now back to her saying, like, God dropped the ball on me. Like, who's going to be her hype man now? It's like she has to learn to be her own hype person. Like, she got to hype herself up, And it takes a lot. I mean, after losing someone and trying to figure out, you know, what your life is going to look like. So that was interesting as well. Um, she said, oh, she said, and this is so true. She also learned that food affects mood. Y'all, I'm telling you, what you're eating, and I've come to learn this too, like what you're eating, it will cause certain symptoms of anxiety, certain symptoms of depression. Just like they say, oh, if you have too much caffeine, you're going to have a little bit of anxiety, you feel jittery. Those are some of the same symptoms of anxiety, right? And so she said she learned that, she may feel a little bit sad or depressed when she eats certain foods. And that is so true. A while ago, I did some research on food and mood. And in my personal experience, I did keto for probably maybe a year. And probably it might have been a few days after I started keto. And keto is no carbs basically. And when I first started that keto, I was doing it to a T. I was tracking what I was eating. I probably was eating no more than about 10 net carbs a day. And I was down in my water. Like, I was doing good. I lost a lot of weight on keto that year. And my mood changed drastically. My sleep was better. I was very, very productive. And not only productive, but my focus, the focus on certain things, like my work was so on point. Like, I was so efficient, and I could get something done like that. There was no lagging. There was no, oh, I'll do a little bit, then I'll come right back. Like, I was so focused and I had so much energy. Like, it was good. It was good. But once you keto, I feel like it could be sustainable. And I'm off on a tangent because I told y'all I like to talk. So keto could be great long term, but you, after a while, I feel like you got to incorporate some carbs, because it's like, just in certain situations, you go to birthday parties, you go here or there, whatever, you might want carbs and stuff like that. So eventually I, got off the wagon. But I noticed, and then I noticed when I started eating a little bit of carbs, and then I got to eat more carbs, I had an attitude. I was like, carbs, do you like that? I've been off carbs so long. But when I got back on those carbs, oh, irritability, attitude, frustrated. Like, I noticed it. So when she said that, I was like, Lauren, no. Like, that was on point, like, for real, for real. Um, and she said, and this is true too, sadness, when you feel or when you feel anger, because Angie asked her, was she angry? And she was like, no, which I'm like, you had to be, even though, okay, you're saying you accepted it and everything. But again, the manner in which you lost him, that would cause anger, and rightfully so. But she said that she's not angry or anything. And maybe Lauren is to that point, where she is just accepted it so much, to the point where she is not angry. But under anger, right, in that stage of anger, is really sadness with anybody in any situation. If someone's angry, underneath that is sadness. So that is the root cause. There is something that's causing them to, feel that way. And it's kind of, this is how they are expressing the sadness. Let's see. She said she did not. This is what made me concerned. She started saying that people have to make her leave the house. She was kind of jokingly saying to Angie, I showered today, my nails are done today, you know. She said she wants to go to the desert and be alone. And before she said that, I wrote down on my notes, I was like, she want to be by herself. She want to be alone. And as soon as I said that, that's what she said. Oh, I want to go to the desert and kind of live a life, like a monk life, and just be with God, right? And that's when I got concerned. I'm like, somebody need to check on our sis, because that's what made me feel like that this just happened last week. It's been a while, and again, grief is you could feel something one day, and then the next day you find, the next day you're not, right? But it's been a while, and for her to feel like I just want to be by myself, I feel like, somebody, we need to check on her, like, are you really okay? What can we do for you? Like, just keep an eye on her. And she says she don't want to live in LA no more. It's too heavy in LA. His He's everywhere. His pictures are everywhere. But I mean, she said, his pictures are in her house everywhere and stuff. But it's just like she don't want to be there anymore. But her family does not want them to leave because they feel like they need to keep an eye on her. And kudos to her family, because she is still at that point where, again, it seems like it just happened last week and somebody got to be next to her. So kudos to them for recognizing that, nah, you got to be here a little bit longer. Got to be here a little bit longer because we got to make sure you are right. Yeah, she says she wants to disappear. People have to force her to go out. Um, and then Angie said something so interesting. She was like, yeah, because when people look at you, they see Nipsey forever. And to me, that I feel like that is a true statement. She's always going to be associated with him, of course, because they have a child together, but like, that's what people are always going to remember. So then when she goes into talking about, when Angie asks her about love, she's like, why do I need pure love? Why do I have to experience that again? I'm 37. I don't have to, be with anyone. I just want to be close to God. Like, I'm not really sure if that's realistic. And what she said, I feel like is a little bit of truth to it. Like, that's the fantasy that everybody else would have, right? Not just for her, but just in general, being with someone, having a partner, having a companion, things like that in your life. Everybody needs somebody, that type of thing, right? But she's like, but why? But I think partly some of that is true, but then also on the other end, I feel like it's because of what Angie said. Think about it. If you with somebody else, right? When people look at you, they only see Nipsey. So it's like, how can I be with somebody else when, if I'm in the limelight, right? Then, and I'm a celebrity, when I go somewhere with somebody, or if I'm seen hugged up with somebody, or like, they see Nipsey. So it's kind of like, and I could see people like getting upset with her for being with somebody else. Not that they intentionally, like, you shouldn't be with, what I'm saying? You shouldn't be with somebody or whatever, but just how they would probably feel like, nah, it's only you and Nipsey, right? But I don't know if that's realistic for life. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, oh, maybe when I get 60, 70 years old. Girl, you're 37 years old. You're still young. You got little kids. You never know who you're going to meet. I just think maybe she's not in that place right now to think that, okay, maybe I could be with someone or experience it again. I mean, even though you experience pure love, with Nipsey, maybe if God puts someone else in your life, he's putting them there for you to experience something else, right? She almost put it like that the pure love with Nipsey was the end all be all, and she doesn't need that again. And then she put it spiritually as well, like I did not have I had pure love when he was here, but now like I'm really experiencing pure love spiritually with him. And that was really a really deep statement, that because she has that spiritually with him, that she feels like she doesn't need to experience anything else with anyone else. Um so yeah, it sounds like she's like made her mind up that I'm not going to be with anyone else ever again. And I feel like it's okay for right now, but I feel like that's kind of sad, that you feel like that, that you feel like it's almost like you feel like no one else will live up to what her and Nipsey had, which they probably won't. But I think that not only their own relationship, but kind of like the limelight has put their relationship so high on a pedestal that it would be impossible for this woman to live normally in another relationship. Like it will be difficult for her, but it will also be difficult for that person. Like they got big shoes to fill, and they have to meet the expectations that not only her, maybe not even her, because she indicated like we had issues in our relationship like everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Not like their relationship was perfect or he was perfect or she was perfect, right? But they got to live up to the expectations that other people have for them, the person that she may be with. So that was very interesting. um Right. Now, when she also, let me see, when she was talking about being spiritual and just wanting to connect with God and go to the desert for a year and be by herself, and I already experienced pure love. I don't need to experience that again. It sounded like to me she was trying to convince herself that this is how it should be. And almost like I hope I'm conveying this in the way that I'm trying to, but it's almost like a safety net for her. The spirituality is like a safety net. It's almost like sometimes when I feel like our community, black community, when you find people who are so Christian like, or they go to church all the time. All they do is talk about church. They talk about God, and God wouldn't want you to do this and do that. Like it's almost like it's their safety net. Or if something happens, oh, we gotta just pray about it. If you pray, it'll be all right. It's like that's the only thing they have to hold on to. If they don't hold on to that, then they're going to fall apart. If they don't lean on that, they're going to fall apart. Because honestly, prayer is not going to help everything, guys. Like, you've got to work on yourself. You got to go to therapy. You got to talk to people. Prayer along with the prayer. It's not like, oh, if you pray, this is everything is going to go away in time. Or if you go through it, the time is going to heal and things like that. Like, you got to really work on it. And so I feel like in our community with church and stuff like that, like you can do that, but that is not the only thing that you're going to have to do. But if it's like, if you don't hold on to that, if you don't have that kind of like safety net, then you wouldn't know what to do. And that's okay, because you have to have something, right? You rather have that than fall apart and not know if you coming or going. You see what I'm saying? But I feel like the spirituality part of what she was talking about is, okay, I have to believe this, because if I don't, then I'm no good. I'm not going to be any good. Like I can't make it if I don't hold on to this and continue to um strive to be so close to God and be spiritual. Because she was like, I got a lot of questions, right? And she wants to be by herself in the desert, living a monk like life to find out those answers. But I would be like, what are the questions? Because you may not get the answer, right? So it's back to convincing yourself, right? That's in, you know, um, you might be in one of those stages, like you back to convincing yourself that, okay, saying things like, okay, this happened for a reason. That's what some people say. Everything happens for a reason. Or, oh, this had to happen for me to get to this point. Or, oh, for me to learn to have a better relationship with God. This is why this happened. The fact is that it just happened and you have to learn how to cope with it. Right? So, um, let's see. What else did she talk about, y'all? What did we learn from her? Oh, she talked about, and I don't want to get into the kids too much, but she talked about being transparent with them. I really liked how, when Angie asked her, well, you had to tell them, and she's like, yeah. She kind of explained how she told them and what she said. I thought it was spot on, based on what her spirituality is, and how she views spirituality, her saying, he transitioned, and you may not be able to hear him, but you can talk to him and you're going to feel him, and you follow the feeling, right? And it makes you tear up a little bit, especially when you talk about kids and them dealing with this, right? But we have to remember, and I've worked with kids that have lost parents and things like that. Kids are so resilient, guys. Like, we are the ones who worry. They're not worried. It's almost like they take on the attitude that Lauren's talking about. Like, okay, that happened. So now what we got to do? Like, okay, let's move on. Talked about her son saying, oh, you going to work today? Oh, yes, you're going to work. Like, you're getting back to life, mom. So the way she explained it to them, I really, really, I know that was difficult for her to do. A long time ago, guys, I had a client that I was working with, and that lost her mom. And I mean, I can't even remember how old the little girl was. She might have been like 7 or something. And she didn't know how she passed, but it was tragic. And I helped her family. I didn't tell her, they told her, because you want to make sure the other parent tells them, our family member or things like that. But I was there for support, and she already knew. That's what the little girl said at 7 years old. I already knew. She was supposed to call me last night and she did not call. I knew that she was not here anymore. And probably 5 minutes after that, she went to the pool and started swimming. Now, not to say that as she gets older, right, or it becomes a teenager, she starts to feel that loss, right, and starts to be in some of those stages or whatever, or even then, maybe she was in denial or whatever. But she said, she's like, oh, I knew already, right, and went on to playing, doing what she would normally do. But kids are more resilient than adults. Adults overthink, and kids, they just are kids. They're there. It's like, okay, you told me that happened. This is what happened. You know, what's next and we move on. So we can learn a lot from kids when it comes to certain things. Um, even my child, I don't even know what it was one day. It might have been like, I don't know, a fly or something like that that I took out, and she's like, oh, he DAD, like, and the kept, I'm like, what? So I, her her son saying, oh my gosh, mom, you are going to work today, because they saw her in that dark place. They saw her not getting out of bed, not showering, just being sad. And so it probably brought them some joy to see that their mom is trying to get through it. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I really give her kudos for that. And what did we learn from this interview? Right? I think that we learned from Lauren that we need to be present, right? We need to be present in, any activity that we're doing, especially with kids and things like that. Be present with ourselves. And one of the ways that helps with being present is meditation. And talking to myself too, like, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of consistency to build up a practice of meditation, but it will really help with staying in the moment. um we also learned from her that we need to be intentional with what we're doing, and she indicated that she strives to be intentional with everything she does, with everything that she says, just being intentional about life. So being present, being intentional with your thoughts as well. You guys can see my little sign up here about, your thoughts. And so, I really, really, again, give her kudos for being courageous enough to do that interview. I give kudos to Angie for being able to be careful with asking those questions to her, and trying to, it was almost like a check-in with our sis, like, we want to make sure you are right. We ain't heard from you, we ain't seen you in interviews. We want to, not to be nosy or anything, we want to make sure that you're doing well and that you're okay, right? um so yes, so that was all I had for that particular interview. One thing that I wished Angie would have asked her, and maybe I missed it, I feel like I didn't hear it though, was to ask her if she was in therapy, or if she was continuing. I know she's continuing the process of healing and going through grief, but if she's actually in therapy, because that would be another check-in to make sure that she's okay, and checking in on her often and frequently. And it's like a resource for her as well on those days where she feels so down, or feeling like she wants to be alone and things like that. She has someone to reach out to other than family or friends if she feels like she doesn't want to call them and things like that. She knows for sure that that's someone that she can call if she feels like that. So um, I hope you all got some good information out of this video about how to deal with grief, learning a little bit about grief and how to manage it a little bit. I'm sure if you watched that interview that you learned something from Lauren. Again, rest in peace to Nipsey. And I will be back probably, today is Friday, y'all. So I'll try to come back tonight with something else. But I really wanted to talk about that grief process, and and how, I kind of viewed that interview. But if you have any additional questions about grief or mental health and you're looking at the replay, please leave a comment and a question if you have it. All the information about how to contact me will be in the description box. I hope you all have a wonderful Friday, and I will talk to you all on the next one. Bye.